friend of mine noticed a furry background on my computer, and he said, "Oh, you're a furry." I'm one too. There's a whole group of us in the city, and suddenly I realized there's this whole community of people who do this sort of thing. A person might be interested in comic books or football, and furry is just another hobby with different ways of manifesting itself. Some people who like football paint their faces and go to football games. Some people who like anthropomorphic arts, they put on a fuzzy suit. It may seem like a strange thing to be a fan of, until you realize that we as a culture grew up with this. If you've watched Disney's Lion King or Robin Hood, you grew up with it. If you grew up with Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, these were, your whole childhood was filled with mascots and characters that were all walking, talking, living, breathing animals.
Back around 2000, 2001, I was doing a research paper on reintroducing a certain species of fox to Central Plains of America. And while doing all the research on that online, came across some anthropomorphic or furry websites at the time. About a year or so later, I actually met some people who were either artists in the fandom or somehow had an interest in it, and I got to talking to them, and once I found out that they were into it, I was like, oh, I remember what I had found some months ago, and I started, got to be friends with these people, and while the furry or the fandom part of it was not the basis of the friendship, it was just something that I learned more and more about over the years, and I met more and more people in it, and got a little bit more interested in it through just happenstance.
It was tremendously relieving to find out that I wasn't the only one with these kinds of furry hobbies, with these interests in anthropomorphic cartoons. When you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you're still watching cartoons, when you're still liking comic book art of these furry characters, you feel a little immature. You feel like you kind of are a bit of an outcast. Suddenly I found out that there's an entire community. Here's 100 people who have the exact same hobby you do, and they think it's really cool, and suddenly you fit in, which is something I wasn't really used to. Being a furry has become a larger and larger part of my life. I think when I first started, it was just kind of a hobby that I did on the side. But as I spent more and more time as a furry, as I spent more and more time in the community, more and more of my friends became furries, and I started going out to furry events. Furry has gradually just become a bigger and bigger part of my life as my interest in it grows.
I'd say my favorite part would be just really good camaraderie of very creative people. I've always liked hanging out with artists, people just that have a good creative side to them. The furry fandom is just chock full of that, being artists, crafters, performers, story writers, musicians. It's really hard to go through the fandom and not find people that just have a creative bone in them, and I click well with those people.
There's no judgment. You can be who you want to be in the fandom. You can be kind of strange or eclectic or quirky. You can be silly, and there's no fear of judgment.
I would say the character Swifty relates to me as a costume. It's just a fun thing to put on, clown around in, and just have a good time. If you had a chance to create a character, a fictional character that you would look up to, how would I go about doing that? So it's kind of the little things that when I think like, oh yeah, I wish I could do that a little bit better, or I wish I wasn't so much of a blank. Those are the kind of qualities I try to roll into Swifty.
Over time, furries tend to take personas and develop personas that represent idealized versions of themselves. So on average, a persona tends to be sort of like you, but a better version of you, so a version of you that has all the stuff that you really would like. And over time, as you spend time as that idealized version of yourself, your personality or some of your traits tend to come to resemble that.
I'm not sure if I'll always be a member. I'll always like the art to some extent. I'll always get a kick out of seeing people run around in these suits and do, dance competitions and performing in it. It's not something I'm seeing myself doing as I grow older on a regular basis. It kind of seems the fandom is really a young fandom, and you get a lot of people kind of discovering it in their teens, and they're pretty hardcore about it in their 20s or so. When you get in your late 20s and beyond, you kind of other things in life start becoming more important.
I hope I'm always an active participant in the furry community. My role in the community might change, so maybe my interest may change from liking comic books and liking particular shows to liking writing or going to fewer conventions and just spending more time with the friends that I've met through the furry community. But I don't think I'll ever grow out of it entirely. Some of the individual manifestations of it, maybe wearing the fursuits, I might grow out of, but I suspect there'll always be a part of me that's attached to the community.